Okay, so thank you everybody. Thanks for your patience while waiting for our technology. So I want to introduce my lovely group. We have here the lovely Keely from Southend. We have Cass from Cambridge Regional College and Kate from Hamlet and South Downs, who have been doing their project on developing a reading culture. And I'm going to say no more because it's their project and I'm not here to do all the talking, so I'm going to hand over to them as quickly as I can. The floor is yours, ladies.
Okay, thank you. So we're each going to obviously explain about our individual projects. We're going to get you to do some work as well. Also, during our presentation, I'm going to be walking around giving out raffle tickets, so please hold on to them, or will be revealed later.
Okay. So we're going to have a quick game of Kahoot. I mean, I don't know if everybody's familiar with Kahoot, but if you log onto this website, if you have data, you can do it with somebody else. It doesn't have to be your phone. You can do it with a partner. That's the website, and it'll ask you to put in a game pin, and then it'll ask you to create a name for yourself or your team. And at this point, I normally say to the students, please keep it clean. You know, do I have to say it to you guys as well?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Yeah, we're probably the worst, aren't we? If you're unfamiliar with Kahoot, what will happen is there's only 5 questions, so it's not going to be very long and tedious. A question will pop up on the board and it will give you some answers, and the answers will be colour coded. You respond to it by pressing the colour that you think is correct on your phone. The quickest person who gets the right answer and the quickest speed of it gets to the top of the leaderboard. Okay? So it's literally 5 questions, that's all it is. You have about 15 to 20 seconds to answer each question, and then we can move on. Excellent. So have we got everybody in? Brilliant. Let's make a start then. So remember, the question will come up and then you'll have time to answer it. So 5 questions. Very, very quick. Here we go. So what percentage of 16 to 18-year-old students read once a day? This is based on data that we collected from our colleges during our project.
Read what?
Read anything.
Read anything at all. We left that very loose. Any ideas? Remember, these are 16 to 18-year-olds, yeah, 11 to 25%. I mean, is that a surprising number for some people? Do you think it's higher or lower? Do you think it's higher? Yeah, I was surprised as well. I thought it actually was a bit higher than what it should be. Let's go to the next one. MC Shell is in the lead. Wow. Gosh, you're prompting it here. Next one. Where do you think the highest percentage of students read? So, like, what part of their house or whatever do they read in? The front room, classroom, bedroom, or car? So pick the colour that you think. Bedroom. So they read in their bedroom the most. Now remember, bear in mind, this is still a very low percentage of learners anyway that we're talking about. You know, are you surprised at that? No? I must admit, I was a little bit surprised because I thought, I mean, I have this preconceived idea of working with 16 to 18-year-olds that they don't read a lot, and that if they do read, it's probably only in the English lessons, predominantly. So I was actually surprised to find out the highest percentage was in the bedroom. But then I suppose it does depend, doesn't it, on the material. ND, no, NC is still wanting it, well done. Close second, Salmon. Lovely. Why do students read? Which answer do you think is the highest percentage? Is it because it's fun? Is it because I like writing? I have to for school, the dreaded one, or it'll help me learn? Which answer do you think was the highest response? There we go. I have to for school. You know, I mean, as an English teacher, you know, that saddens me because I grew up with reading and was read to as a child. Coming from Cambridge College, although it is a predominantly rich area, Cambridge, where the college is situated, it's a poor deprived area. So most of the kids that we did surveys on and everything like that told us that they weren't read to as children, but their parents weren't read to as children. So I think this kind of reflects in, you know, your upbringing and how you're brought up, as and how you do, perform well with reading or not as we go through life. And I think we've got one more question, haven't we? MC Shell, still in the lead. I don't think anybody's going to be here now. What percentage of the teachers in the study encourage reading in their lessons? So we're not just talking about English teachers, we're talking about all kind of teachers.
It was mostly vocational teachers, wasn't it?
Vocational teachers, 51 to 75%. What do we think? Anybody got any ideas on that figure? Anything to say? Is that higher or lower?
I guess I like it. I do teacher education, and me trying to get my trainee teachers to read is fairly challenging, so I suppose it's probably not a surprise.
Yeah, that's true.
Teachers themselves are not reading either.
Why do you think that is though? Time, yeah. For teachers, it's definitely time, isn't it?
I don't think it's part of their job.
No, I don't. Don't you think you've got your qualifications? That's it. I've done uni. I've got my degree. That's it. Don't need to read anymore. End of.
You see, I answered before you said vocational.
Ah, did you?
I was
Yes.
thinking this kind of cohort, English cohorts.
Oh, yeah,
And then that's why I
no.
went with the top answer. But
Right.
I'm quite surprised at how high that was.
Yeah, I
Because
was
if
so
did it,
surprised.
I would have put it
Yeah.
probably in the red bracket. To be quite
But
honest.
although that's 51 to 75, can I just say the answer actually was about 53%. It was near the bottom end of that figure, not the top end. Who's in the lead? Is it still MC Shell? Yes, well done. Who is MC Shell? Well, hey, well done. Last question. What percentage of the teachers in the study were read to as a child? Bear in mind, it wasn't just English teachers, we're talking about vocational teachers as well. 0 to 25%, 26 to 50, 76 to 100, 51 to 75%. Oh, it's close. Most people got 76 to 100% of those people that took part in the study of teaching staff were read to as a child. And so that's 76 to 100%, and yet only about 52% of them encourage reading. About 52-53% encourage reading in their lessons. Which I think is a really sad state of affairs when, kids need to be able to read to pass anything these days, don't they? Not just GCSEs, but they need it for everyday life. Right, our winner is... Oh, here we go. Deb was third. Who's Deb? Hey, well done, Deb. Salman second. And first place was MC Shell. Well done. That's it. Oh, and who's LRC champ? Because they were runner-up as well. Well done. That table, that is. Thank you very much for taking part in that. We just wanted to give you a little bit of flavour, some statistics on why we chose this report really before we took things any further. And Ryan. Keely?
Yeah. So this is the video they wouldn't let you see earlier. Hopefully it will play. So this is part of, I'm from Hamilton South Downs College, so it's part of the work that Dom has done. He couldn't be here today, I've helped in the project as well. So he talks about the background to the research and why we've done it, and then we'll play a little bit later about a bit about that's Karen, our performing arts lecturer who took part in it, if it works. Here we go.
So this outstanding teaching, learning and assessment project focused on developing a culture of reading. So what we were trying to do was actually encourage business students and performing arts students at HSDC to actually read more, to actually engage with text, because there's a huge body of evidence that actually supports how important reading is for people's professional and personal development. So a study by Patton in 2011 showed the positive impact that reading can have on emotional intelligence, on vocabulary and also on exam success. In addition, a study by the OECD showed that reading has a huge impact on social mobility across the world. Douglas in 2013 actually stated that reading was the most important factor affecting the future success of young people. However, reading can be perceived as uncool, and Topping in 2018 demonstrated this in how little boys of a certain age actually do read. So we studied one class of business students and we decided to use a local author and then give them the book that the local author wrote. The concept being that the book was linked to grading criteria. So we asked the local author to come in, he worked with the students, he gave them the book, the students then were supposed to read the book, and then the author came back in. If I'm very honest, it had its constraints, this project, which I'll go through a bit later on, but there were some huge successes as well.
Okay, so that was a brief description of, thank you. That was a kind of background of the research for all of the projects really, wasn't it, in terms of what was going on, and a brief description of what we did at Havant and South Downs College. And we're now going to go on to talk about each individual project and how it worked. So,
Hello, so I work at Southend Adult Community College, and we've got a very small group of 14 to 19-year-old learners on a study programme. We've got about 50 in total. So when I applied for the bid for the money, I didn't really have reading in particular in mind. I was just looking for anything really that helped engage the learners in their lessons, and then hopefully that would improve attendance, behaviour and ultimately their achievement. One of our issues is that our teachers are trained to teach adults, and they joined the college to teach adults, and for lack of any other tutors, despite advertising, our adult teachers teach on the study programme, and even we've got some outstanding teachers, but even they struggle mainly with behaviour management and adapting resources for that age group. So really from this project I've stolen a lot of ideas from the other colleges in the project with me, but also on the last dissemination day here in Birmingham, and we're just sort of trying different things out. We are not as far ahead with the project as the other people on the project. We started later, and to be honest, the impact at the moment on the learners is minimal. That's partly because of the cohort of learners that we work with. They are young adults that were at risk of being excluded from school, haven't been in school, got a lot of mental health issues. But what I would say is that the impact at the moment is on the teachers. It's actually, you know, we know we've got areas to improve, and the teachers keep hearing this, but nothing really changes. And I think from this project they've seen that like senior managers are actually doing something about it. So we've tried different ideas from what I've picked up from other colleges, and one of the biggest impacts with the teachers is that they now feel it's okay to try something and it doesn't matter if it doesn't work. So it's given them a lot more confidence. It's also given us the time, using some of the funding money as well, to go out to other colleges. So 2 of our English tutors visited Cambridge Regional College, spent a day there going into lessons, looking how the teachers there dealt with behaviour in the classroom. And again, they came back really motivated and reassured, I suppose, that it's not just them, that actually other colleges all have very similar problems to what we're having, and we thought it was just us because we're an adult college and we're not really equipped to deal with young adults. So this statement up there came from some of the learners. We did a really silly little thing really, but it had such an impact. We started giving out raffle tickets in the class. Initially it was going to be for learners that came on time, but then we decided actually it's up to the tutor. They just said, I've got raffle tickets, I'm going to give them out if I think you deserve one. It can be for being on time for class, actually just turning up some days, being engaged in the lesson, producing some work, and within, well, virtually overnight, there were learners in class who hadn't done a scrap of work up until then, produced pieces of writing because they wanted a raffle ticket. So really sort of small, quick idea produced really good results, and we carried that on for 2 or 3 weeks. So the more raffle tickets people were given, the more chance they had of winning the prize. And we gave them tokens, vouchers, sorry, and in 2 or 3 weeks' time we drew the raffle tickets, and the learners were actually shocked that we'd done it. And what they said was, we really didn't think you were going to do anything because we don't trust teachers, which was really sort of sad to hear them say that. So obviously that's based on their experience from school. You know, they just didn't feel teachers delivered on what they said they were going to do. So a really tiny thing actually had like quite a big impact on them, not just from producing the work, but actually maybe restoring a little bit of faith in teachers. So we've also, where we work, we've got a lot of hourly paid tutors and part-time tutors, so it's been very difficult to get what we want to do is get the English teachers working together with the vocational tutors, so making the English lessons more relevant and following what they're doing in their vocational classes. So that's been slow to get off the ground just through logistics, but that's something we're going to work on, especially for next year. We're going to plan the timetable slightly differently so that they will have time when they're all free together to do that. I think that was the main thing so far. Oh, that's right, we've just tried a couple of other things around attendance. So we've put up a learner achievement board in like the main area by reception, and now we're putting up the top 5 attendees for the week, each week. So trying to make it like a bit of a competition, a bit of a league. And the other thing we've done, we don't know yet if it's going to work, but we stagger the functional skills exams. So they'll do their speaking and listening first, and then a month or so later do their reading, and then the writing later on. So we've just issued some college certificates. So for the learners that have passed their functional skills, speaking and listening, although they haven't officially achieved, we've given them a college certificate. So we're hoping that's going to motivate them to then come and do the next stage of the exam, because it could be 6 months till they finish all 3 modules. So it's trying to keep them motivated, really. And sometimes, again, quite sad, it's the first certificate they've ever been given in like an education setting. So hopefully that will motivate them. And I think certainly for me, and obviously it's going to, you know, go with my colleagues and everything at the college, it's actually meeting other people as part of the project, being able to get out, have that time and that headspace, and like, you know, just working on the project with Dom and Kate and Cass has been really useful, and with Rachel. And you know, even though this project is coming to an end in our college, it's going to carry on, and I don't think, you know, we're really going to have the full impact until September, when we can start afresh with a new group of learners with all the ideas tried and tested, and we'll know by then what's worked, what hasn't, and I think it will really take off from September. So yeah, for us it's maybe a different outcome at the moment to what I intended. You know, the impact is more on the staff at the moment than the learners, but that's a really good thing, and they feel a lot more confident and motivated to carry on working with that age group. So yeah, that's it, that's us. Thank you.
So for us, the Cambridge College was slightly different. I did start off with the very good intentions of doing lots of surveys, peer assessments and things like that, but then my creative juices took over. And so I started to think about the project a little bit differently. So when I did a survey with the staff initially, which came up with some of these results to show that actually the staff in the whole college didn't really participate in reading as a whole. So, and being responsible for the English provision at the college, I was really shocked to discover that actually the onus on us, on our learners passing GCSE, was down on our English teachers really predominantly, and that scared me because we know reading is a big part of GCSE, you know, and I wanted to make sure that the students could achieve and progress rather than keep coming back and resitting it every year. So I decided to take a more creative approach to how we did things, and I got everybody in the college, mostly everybody in the college involved. I produced these posters first of all. You might have seen them in schools, I don't know. I would got all the heads of department, the senior management team, vocational lecturers to take part. They put their name on the top and they put what they were reading. and we displayed these around the college in places where the students were walking by and they could see that. So they could see their cool sports t-shirt, that red book. You know, it didn't have to be a fiction book. It could be a textbook. It could be just a book or on cards. It could be a magazine, anything like that. So these were quite colourful and, you know, grabbed their attention. We recently discovered a website, because we decided to take the next stage further from this, that actually does it all for you, really. If you input your name and you input the book that you're reading, it produces a poster and a QR code. And the QR code gives you a review of the book, which is a really good little website. It's a free website. So we're going to get, so for the next academic year, we're going to get our students to do this and all our teaching staff as well to go around doing this. Yes.
What was it called?
The website is called www.whatimreading.org. You can have a look at this later and you can be able to get it. But the QR code is great because it gives the kids, you know, they can scan it, see if there's something that they're interested in or not. And the next thing I did was, I thought, the reason why they don't read is because they think it's uncool, don't they? A lot of our 60-year-olds, they think it's not cool, they don't read it, they don't need it. And I didn't want them to have this perception that English teachers were stuffy, old-fashioned English teachers. You know, we can be cool too sometimes. So I got some glass pens, you know, those pens that are around windows and stuff, and we have a bridge that connects between blocks, and it's full of windows. And I thought, perfect opportunity to put some reading on there, stuff for them to read, to expose them to reading more. So I thought about their age group, what's contextual, things like that, and what's relevant for them. And most of our kids are doing driving theory tests, you know, at this age group. So I did draw a car, it wasn't very good, but I did draw a car, coloured it in, and then I did like road signs, all these glass windows with questions in it, theory questions in it. And then on the edge of it, I wrote like vocab check or spelling, you know, things like this. I also put a maths questions on there as well, so that they could see how relevant it was. So you can see the kind of thing we did on these windows, and it pops out, it really pops out, and the kids are walking there, and rather than just walking through to the next lesson, they're now actually stopping and reading. They might not read every question, because they find after a while, oh, it's a bit boring and keep carrying on, but they are actually stopping and reading. These glass pens have been brilliant. We use them now in our classrooms as well. We get the students to write on the windows, you know, did you learn a new word today? What was the new word you learned? They can write it on the window of their classroom, which is great, you know, and then we can refer back to it later on as well. The other thing we did was, I got roll-up banners made up about reading statistics, about poor readers, and how it affects you, you know, and we had them put in reception, so that the minute you could walk in the door, you get that image that reading is encouraged. We also put it in the students' area where they sit and they have their lunches, or they just like can hang out with their mates. We put them up there so they can see that as well. But we also took the opportunity to put up magazine racks, because if they're sitting down and they're talking amongst their friends or they're waiting for the friend, we thought, well, why, you know, if they're sitting there bored, you know, rather than just being on the phones all the time, I put a load of like Beano's, Dandy magazines, Marvel comics, the I newspaper, which is something that the kids, you know, it's easy for them to read, it's international. Put them in the magazine racks, you know, the students take them and then they can put back, leaving the tables in their own time, and they can read as much or as little as they want. We also I got the rest of the college involved, because I thought they needed to all get on board this. I wanted to change, I wanted the impact to be on the college as a whole first, so then that way it would influence our learners. So for instance, our catering team in the restaurants, what they did was, you know, you have those table number stands in the middle of the tables, they actually got song lyrics. So when it was Christmas, they got Christmas song lyrics and they pushed on the table stands instead of table numbers, and people had to try and guess. We have a patch of garden that's near a walkway into the college, and that's a themed garden now, and we had, you know, those plant sticks that you have? We've put quotes on there, quotes from books and everything, depending on what time of year it is, Valentine's Day, you know, Christmas, things like that, we put quotes on there. So even if they're just reading one thing as they're going along, it's still encouraging reading within the college. There's an outside area where the students play table tennis and things like that, and there's a huge blank wall, and what we're getting is a piece of perspex put up on the wall with some text on it, or quotes, you know, something that's relevant, like a Stormzy song or something like that, you know, and then what we're going to use is to bring them outside of the lessons, outside of the classroom, and outside into this area, and have some lessons outside as well. So it's just a different environment. We have had book boxes put up where students can just go and they can take a book out and then they can go and put it back, or they can swap it, keep it, or put another book in there, and that's all free. The only way I've been able to do that, though, is our pastor has got an agreement with a load of charity shops in the local area, and they're always oversubscribed with books, so she takes a handful off them every so often, and then the students have a full bookcase every time. Vocational areas have jumped on board with this, and they've got book boxes all in their areas now as well. They've also got notice boards up in their classrooms in the vocational areas saying books that we've read. You know, they take pictures of it and stick it up. And it's just all about exposing you to more and more. We also have reading pens. I don't know if anybody's ever seen a reading pen. One of the things that we did is we spoke to our 14 to 16-year-olds for the alternative provision, and they really, really struggled with reading. And we knew obviously they're coming through the college and progressing up, so we wanted to support them. We created a reading room for them because the college gave me a small room and I figured that was just the right size for them. The kids decorated themselves, they thought it was great. They stacked it with magazines and books, and they've got a reading pen, and they've also have audibles now there as well, because we wanted them to have different ways to access reading, and it didn't have to be just about picking up a book. We've also got Read Write now facility on all our computers in the college, which encourages reading. And finally, the main thing, which is what we're doing now to moving things forward, is we're writing a reading strategy now at the moment, so that we can progress this further and take it a lot further next year. I want a bigger reading room. I want more than one. You know, I want everybody to be doing some kind of reading within their classrooms, not just in an English lesson. In every room, in every lesson, they should be reading something. So that's what we're doing with things at the moment. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can play the video afterwards if you want. Okay, lovely. That's really interesting actually. Our project's quite different to the other two. I really like the embedding kind of within everywhere and kind of make it really visual.
Trying to embed reading in the vocational courses. So like you say, it shouldn't be up to our English teachers that are teaching English. We were looking at the impact of reading within their vocational lessons. So we piloted that with two different groups, a Level 3 BTEC business group and a Level 3 BTEC performing arts group. And with that, we introduced a text that they were to read, and it was going to feed into their modules. So actually they had to do this as part of their course, and they were going to gain grades for that, so it kind of was within their course. So this is one of the quotes that came back from one of our business students. I didn't want to read the book because I had been told to. I read what I want. Okay, so we had a really, really mixed result from each group. So with the performing arts, it was really, really positive. They loved it, they took it on board, they were enthusiastic. One of the students actually, who has never bought a book before, went out and bought a physical book, so from the research, so it was amazing. The business side was more of a struggle, and that's where we kind of got this quote from. And there's a couple of reasons I think that might have been, and some things that we're going to do moving forward, which I'll talk about. So in a minute I'm going to play a clip from our performing arts lecturer, and then I can talk a bit about that.
So being involved in the Culture of Reading project has been such a rewarding experience for my performing arts cohort. They really engaged in reading through the text, and they kept referring back to it to get more detail at various points. And it enabled a discussion to be opened up about who does read, who reads for fun, who reads because they have to. And that discussion led to a lot of the students being inspired to read more. One student even purchased his first ever book.
Okay, so as I said, it was really positive with the performing arts students. We took 2 lots of data from each group. We did a survey, which some of the surveys fed back into the Kahoot that you did earlier, looking at kind of when they read, how they read, whether they enjoyed it. From that, the majority of the performing arts students actually said that reading was either very important or important to them, so they saw the importance of reading. And when we compare that to the business students, less than half of those thought that reading was either very important or important. So you can see the different viewpoints in the 2 different groups, and that was before they took part in the project. At the end of the project, we did some focus groups, which I was a part of. It was really interesting to hear their views. Kind of the performing arts students were saying they lost themselves in the book. They read Anna Karenina, pronunciation, and they loved it, the story. They read it, they then read the script, and then they decided to perform it. Now, as part of the
project, they weren't meant to perform it. That wasn't part of it. They were just supposed to read it and kind of feedback on it. But they loved it so much they asked if they could do a performance, and they did that, which was amazing. So that was really lovely. The business book was Business Builder, which was all about running your own business. So it was about the entrepreneurship element of their business course. They then had a workshop with the writer of the book, who's a local author, Mark Legg, and that really enthused them. So whilst there was some negativity, that kind of more practical workshop with the author helped. So I think that's something moving forward we could look at. It's interesting to note that most of the performing arts students were female, and most of our business there's kind of a more male demographic. So it's interesting to look at that. Is reading uncool for males? Do females tend to read more? Whether that had an impact? There's lots of different variables that we could think about, but we really did see a huge contrast in how effective that was in both areas. But certainly it was positive. All students read more. They all read the book, which was great, books in each case. And actually, because it was going towards their marks, their grades, they saw the importance of it as well. So I know that Karen's going to do more of this moving forward, definitely, and our business teachers are going to take it on board and possibly look at the kind of text that we used. So it was actually a non-fiction text that they read for business, and obviously it was fiction for performing arts as well. So I think moving forward with business, we might try and engage them with something a bit more kind of storytelling. There was a lot about storytelling for performing arts, so whether we could do that with the business students moving forward.
But is there any questions about anything? So you're very fine. Yes.
Hi, I had a question about Audible.
Audible, yeah.
And did you get a subscription? More? How did that work?
Yeah, we because we had funding, we were allowed to use it. I'd like to
So you
support
just
us
got like
with
a
it.
21 and you gave the login.
Yeah, we just shared the line. Yeah, wasn't that bad? It was quite good. But it just gives them more exposure to it, and it supports the reading. And then one of the things that we found is that we've also after we had training with Tricia for that reading thing, and that really supported some of our teachers as well, because what we've done is we've put on some English enhancement sessions, 3 to 4, enrichment sessions. So, we all know we should have enrichment on our timetables for the students, and that's one of the things that we did. We put that on, but we didn't want to call it reading lessons, we called it English enrichment instead, And in that way, the students could pop in, and we try and encourage those poor readers to come in to try and develop their reading skills as well, without it being an obvious thing for them, peer pressure that they all come under. Yes.
I wanted to do anything with audio books. We have a discussion in my class about audio books.
It does count. Well, I think it counts. I think if you can have the text as well with you, and then they can follow it as well, then that's great. Because what they need to hear about it is the rise and fall of their punctuation as well, which helps the pronunciation of the, they listen to pronunciation of words, but they don't know what it looks like necessarily. So I think audiobooks are very good, but I would encourage you to have the text with them as well, initially anyway. And then as they become better readers, or, then I'll move away from audiobooks, really. Anything else? Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. I thought it was only going to be 3 people, so that's actually great.